Two men journey to the bars and restaurants of Scandinavia to find amazing beers, always with the same question.
Hey, what's on tap?
It's time to find out.
What's on Tap podcast? I am your host, Stefan.
I'm your host, Martin.
And you have brought a couple of very exciting beers for us today.
Yeah, today is a very special episode.
It is.
You know, in a TV series when it's a very special episode and they talk about drugs or
child molestation.
Yes,
or
exactly.
Getting your first period.
Exactly.
Or,
one of those when you realize early on in the episode, like,
I'll never forget the
Fresh Prince is not going to be making jokes today.
Facts of Life episode when Tootie had her first period, and you're kind of like, great. Now I've learned everything there is to know about the female reproductive system.
That's good. You should know.
In a 23-minute sitcom. It is all Mrs. Garrett really laid out the facts of life.
I get it. The very, very, very first episode I was ever a guest on What's on Tap podcast was June of 2017.
Nerd.
I brought a bottle of beer with me.
You did?
No, I brought a can.
You brought a can. It was a can.
It was Trillium Cutting Tiles.
Yes.
An IPA or double IPA or something.
Yeah.
And it was tasty. And recently, the European market was flooded with Trillium beers.
So there was like 5 different web shops that were selling this collection of Trillium beers.
Yes. So I found where the different variations were cheapest, and I managed to get several of them. Mm-hmm. And I brought 2 of them to share with you.
Right. Well, what's interesting is that in the past, the Trillium beers you got were always IPAs, double IPAs, almost exclusively.
Yeah.
And then, I didn't even know they made beers outside of IPAs and double IPAs. I assume they did, but I didn't realize they had a whole sour project on the side. So I was very excited to discover that they were doing these beers as well. So do you know what you brought today? Do you remember?
So one is a collaboration with Carton Brewing. But I think it's a sour with like Sauvignon Blanc grapes or something.
It is. It is an American Wild Ale aged on Sauvignon Blanc and Chenin Blanc grapes called Brimming. And the other is Double Apricot Stonington, which is a New England Wild Saison with apricot aged in oak barrels.
Yum.
Let's do the Double Apricot first.
Really? I think that one will be the most... I think the other one will be more soft and mellow.
Well, then let's do the Wild Ale aged on Sauvignon Blanc and Chenin Blanc. Comes in at a 10.9% ABV.
Wow.
That's why I was like, let's do the further one first. Do you know where Carton Brewing is from?
I do not.
Okay. Good story.
Keep talking and I will...
I don't know, I reached everything I had to say at this point. Let's see. So it smells very gauze-like. It's very wild ale, Belgian lambic style beer.
Carton is from New Jersey. Atlantic Highlands is the town, city.
That's
village.
the town? Atlantic Highlands is
Atlantic Highlands,
New Jersey.
And Trillium is from Canton, Massachusetts.
Yep.
M.A.
Yep.
Maine.
Maine is M-E.
Why?
M-A-I-N-E?
That makes no sense.
It's
Why isn't Massachusetts M.S.? Massachusetts.
Because Mississippi's M.S.
Why isn't Mississippi M.I.? Mississippi.
Because Michigan is M.I.
Why isn't Michigan M.N.? Michigan...
Because it's M.I. Because the first 2 letters. Honestly, I don't know how they did the states. Like, I guess they went in alphabetical order. And since... Well, that doesn't make sense.
They probably sat down and said, this is going to be really easy. Alaska, A-L. Great. What's next? Alabama. Oh, no.
Yeah. But Alaska's A-K and Alabama's A-L.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Alabama would come first in the alphabet. I messed up the joke.
Yeah, but so Maine is M-A or M-E, but M-A, Massachusetts, M-A says M-A-I. I don't know how they came up with it. No. Anyway, but yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense.
No.
But I'm sure there's some reason for it.
Let's. So it smells.
Why is Kansas KS and not KA? That doesn't even make sense. There's no other Ks.
Kentucky.
It's KE.
But why isn't it KY?
Because jelly is already there. I mean, it's taken.
The beer smells quite nice. It smells a little grapey, sour, like you say, like a Belgian goose almost.
Yeah,
but not really.
and the color is very Belgian goose as well. Cheers.
Wow, that is actually very grapey.
It is very, what do you call it, vinous.
Yeah. But it
with
has
that-
a lot of these green, like eating green grapes.
Yeah.
They can be quite.
I know the other one is the Wild Ale Saison, but for me this is very saison-y as well.
Yeah.
It has kind of that farmhouse funkiness to it, but I think it's quite nice. This is one of those where mileage may vary depending on flavor profiles and how much you enjoy it, but I think this is a very delightful beer. It's got those, like I said, raw green grape notes with this kind of saison-y barnyard funk kind of to it.
The aftertaste is really dry. Champagne style after mouthfeel.
Yeah, especially if you swish it around your mouth, it really just kind of turns to foam, and then it just has that champagne kind of finish to it.
Yeah, you'd like it if I swished it around, right?
Yeah, always. Yeah, this is a really interesting beer. I think I just wish this was a bigger bottle. I wish it was like a 750 milliliter bottle instead of a, was it 330?
It's the 330.
Yeah.
Teeny tiny.
Teeny tiny is too small. I need more. So what
Would you give it?
I'm going to give it a 45.
Nice. I am in the same wheelhouse. I'll upgrade it from a 4 to 425.
Excellent. All right.
Now
next
apricots.
Double Apricot Stonington. This comes in at only just a 6.7%.
I have a controversial topic because
I'm going to jump back to this. For a 10% ABV beer, this drink's really smooth.
Really smooth.
It is. You don't like. It could have been like a really hot alcohol burn to it, but it drinks really, really easy.
Yes.
Sorry, go ahead.
So last time we drank Trillium, before today, we drank 2 beers that were the same base, but one was with apricots and one was with peaches.
And the apricot one I thought was
The
outstanding.
apricot was far superior.
Yes.
To the level where I was going. Is there really that much difference between a peach and an apricot in real life, like outside of beer? And I guess it is.
You know, I don't really. I think like to eat a peach and apricot for me, they pretty much kind of taste the same.
Yeah.
But I think whenever you put them in beer, the apricot is a little more is smaller and condensed fruit. So I think the flavor comes through much easier than a peach, which has a much softer skin and flesh and doesn't produce as much flavor as an apricot does. I think for me, whenever you have beers that go like, oh, that's so peachy, there's usually like passion fruit in there that boosts that receptor of what you think a peach should taste like, and that's when you go, oh yeah, that's really peachy.
So let's so the double apricot Stonington. I don't know what Stonington is. Is it a kind of apricot? Let's.
You know, in my horticulturist days when I knew all of the different apricot types that were out there.
That's why I'm asking you. I assume that you will know this.
I don't know. Could be. For me, this smells like apricot and vanilla.
Okay, so I googled apricot Stonington, and all I get is Trillium results. It's.
I assumed it was a location or a provider of the apricot itself.
So Stonington is a village in Connecticut. That's probably not it.
It could be where they grow the apricots.
Maybe. Yeah. Who knows? Let's try it instead.
All right. Yeah. So this has a kind of an apricot vanilla nose to it.
Quite sour
Yeah.
aroma.
It's much more acidic.
It's really acidic.
That
Wow.
It definitely curls your tongue and gives you a bit of a pucker.
Mouth watering.
Really puckers both ends, doesn't it? And the aftertaste is very apricot-y. I mean, it's
very apricot.
But it's not like jammy. It's more like tart, like the fruit skins kind of flavor, as opposed to kind of a jammy, rounded richness, sweetness to it.
Yeah, it's much soured than I expected.
Mm-hmm. But oh man, it's good. Yeah, this is another one where if you don't like acidic beers,
you'll hate it.
I think it will be quite overwhelming for you.
Yeah.
Because this one really activates your salivation glands, and
for sure.
Kenya's like, whew, that's rich. That's tart. But yeah, I think again this is another really, really good beer. It makes me excited to try more of these Trillium sour beers.
Yeah, they've been the few we've had before have all exceeded expectations, basically.
For sure.
Yeah, so I recommend. They're still.
You can get them in many web shops. You can't get the whole line, but you can get a lot of them, like 8 to 10 different of these Trillium sour beers.
But you might need to combine orders from multiple web shops because there's a little overlap.
Yeah.
But there are also certain sites only have certain stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
What would you give this?
I'm also going to give this a 4.25.
I'm going to go the same.
Yeah.
They taste very differently, but they kind of end up in the same ballpark.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I definitely agree. This was a real treat. Thank you for bringing both of these to try.
So about I don't have the exact count, but more than 160 episodes that I've been a part of, and we finally go back to my humble little What's on Tap podcast beginning.
Well, I mean, as we've said before, while COVID sucks, it has allowed us to get some amazing beers from online shops that we would never been able to get before.
Exactly.
So that makes me very happy. Okay, so you can find us online at what'sontappodcast.com, Instagram, Facebook, Spotify, iTunes, and wherever you can find quality podcasts, you can find What's on Tap. So until next time,
keep drinking them.
This podcast is part of the Pod Syndicate family. For more criminally compelling shows, articles, and conversations, head to wearePodsyndicate.com.